Welcome to Keto Life Support, where we make your keto life sustainable, fun, and low stress. I'm Kim Howerton, and I'll be coming to you weekly with some of my keto besties to bring you the practical, real-world keto advice that you need. Quick disclaimer, I am not a doctor, and even if we do have a doctor in the house from time to time, he or she is not your doctor, and nothing we say on this show should be taken as medical advice. Always check in with a trusted medical professional about your own personal medical concerns.
Hello and welcome to Keto Life Support. This is Kim Howerton with episode number 141, Getting Back on Track. Now, you might be listening to this right as 2023 begins, and I'm speaking to you from 2022 as I record this right now. And I'm telling you, if you've gotten off track, it's not a problem. You can get back on track in a moment. You just have to decide to do it. Now, if you're listening to this and you're like, I'm not off track. Why are you telling me I am? I am not. If you're not off track, well, listen to this for a friend. Maybe you'll pick some things up that will help you out. And I'm going to pause for a minute to mention that starting in just a week or two is my Keto Unstuck program. And it's perfect for people that need a little more help, whether they're needing help to get back on track, which will be a focus for one part of the course. There's also another track for people who aren't off track. They're just still not seeing the success they want. So Keto Unstuck is a program for anyone who's not seeing the success they want, whether they don't understand why they aren't because they think they're doing everything right, or they know why they aren't because they're way off track and they need some help to get back on. It covers both territories. So if that sounds like something you need help with, check out the links attached to this episode and you can find out more information on how to get enrolled. All right, back to the episode. So if you've been off the rails or you know someone who is off the rails, here's what I would say. And what do I mean by off the rails? You can interpret it however you want, but I think it's like one of those things that you kind of know it when you see it, which is to say, you have some food decisions that you've made that don't line up with how you want to be eating. And you've either gone completely crazy off the deep end or it's just drifted. You're just kind of hanging a little bit uncomfortably and you need some help just to right things. So it can be mild, it can be severe, it can be anywhere along that continuum. Here's what I would suggest. One, if you're like, it's one simple fix, I can do X and I'll be back on track, right? Maybe it's like, I've really picked up snacking and that doesn't really support my goals. I'm going to stop doing that and I'll be back on track. Okay, decide that's happening right away. No more. Stop now. Doesn't matter if you still have snacks in your house that you were thinking about eating. Throw them away. So if it's a small thing, fix the small thing. You don't need a podcast for me to tell you that, but I told you that anyway. But here's what I'm going to say to the people who really need a restart, a reset, a get back to it. The first thing I'm going to say is this will start tomorrow. Now, that doesn't mean if you're listening to this at the midday point, the rest of the day is binge land. No, be reasonable with your food choices for the rest of the day. But we're going to start this clean slate day one. You're going to eat 3 meals tomorrow. You think you're supposed to eat 2? I don't care. You're going to eat 3. You can get back to 2 once you get back on track. Your first meal, you're going to pick entirely foods that work for your plan. And for this is kind of getting back on keto. I recommend, if you like eggs, a whole bunch of eggs, maybe some bacon or sausage, maybe you like a steak. I don't know, whatever works for you. But this should be a very low carb, heavy protein, heavy fat meal that really fills you up. There should not be any thought about calories. There should not be any thought about restriction. You want to be full by the end of this meal. Then, when you're hungry again, you're going to have your second meal. You're going to have either a repeat of the first meal, bacon and eggs and sausage and whatever, or a bunless burger or some meat. You can put butter on things. So again, we're focusing on fat and protein. And if you want to throw in a few leafy greens or a pickle or something like that, sure, go right ahead. But we're really focusing heavily on fat and protein. If you get hungry again today, when you do, you're going to repeat that meal again. And then you're going to stop eating 3 hours before bed at least. You should not be hungry by the time you go to bed because you've eaten a really solid big meal. If you're just hungry and you can't help it, you can have a little bit of fat and protein, but no carbs after dinner. That is what I would say this week. So it's basically focusing on fat and carbs, eating 3 times a day, not eating between meals. Between meals, you can drink beverages without any calories. Yes, you can have sweeteners that don't have any absorbable carbohydrates if they work for you. If they don't work for you, don't have them. And what do I mean by if they don't work for you? If they make you have stronger cravings or hunger signals, or you're technically allergic to them, then obviously avoid anything you are allergic or will cause you a medical problem. If I have to say that, I feel bad, but I'll say it anyway. So you're going to do this for day 1 and day 2 and day 3 and day 4 and day 5. And you're going to do this for a whole week. You're going to aim for 3 really filling meals. You're not going to worry about calories. You're not going to worry about dieting. You're not going to worry about quantity. You're not going to think about losing weight this week. You're just getting back on track in a way that helps you make better food choices. Week 2, if you feel solidly on track, like, you know how I would describe it as I got my brain back, right? Like I'm not living in craving carb land anymore. I feel like I can make sane choices. That's when we can look at refining the way we eat to better meet our goals. But it's hard to make good choices from a place of hunger and cravings and kind of back in that blood sugar roller coaster. So you continue this pattern for as long as you need until you feel like you have it back. Now, if you're going on like 2 weeks and you still feel pretty out of control about things, I would say, look me up, shoot me an email, put a comment in one of my videos, put a comment in this video if you're watching it on YouTube, or if you're listening to it, find me on Facebook, give me a sign. You probably should sign up for Keto Unstuck is what I'm going to say. But I will also be happy to talk to you just to see if we can work through some of these details about why you're continuing to feel out of control. But this is my getting back on track plan. It's pretty simple. You can use it at any time. You can also use it any day that if you're normally on track, but today, wow, you're feeling super cravey and all crazy, and this plan can work then too. So it's not complicated. There's not a lot of details other than eat good food until you are full. You shouldn't feel sick. Don't eat yourself sick, but eat yourself truly full so that you're not as susceptible to grabbing the things you don't want to eat. So this was a quick and dirty episode to help the folks that got off track, but it's simple, doesn't have to overcomplicate. We can overcomplicate later, I promise. I know it's fun for some of us, but for now, you're just going to keep it super simple and get the carbs back out of your diet if the carbs have crept back in and they're causing you to feel out of control about the way you eat. Hopefully that helped, and I will talk to you soon.
Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Keto Life Support. Want more information? Want show notes? Want to suggest a topic? Just head over to ketolifesupport.com. That's where all that kind of thing can go on. By the way, I have a request. If you could go to your podcast host and hit subscribe, we would really, really appreciate it. And what would be even more awesome is if you could write a review. And what would be even more awesome than that is if you could write like a really flattering review. Just asking, you do you. All right. So thanks so much for joining us. I'm thrilled that you're part of the Keto fam. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.